and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. Today marks day 2 of Identity Week and our coverage of the conference. Once again, joined by Indicio Deputy CTO Sam Curren. Thanks for joining us, Sam. We already asked a bit about you yesterday, so let's jump right into the conference. What happened today at IIW?
Whole lot of stuff. There's a lot of conversations on governance. VLEI and Glyph had some governance that they talked about, and other governance topics as well. Not necessarily the machine-readable governance kind, but the sort of the human legal side of things. Covered a lot of ground today, and there was a lot of talk about that. There were some more sessions on did WebS and like what that kind of entails and the state of that ongoing work effort. And then there were a handful of sessions on OpenID for VC. There was an non-cred session that Stephen Curren led about a non-creds V2, and a handful of other credential related sessions talking about those technologies as well. So a bunch of really good stuff. There were 2 sessions that I held today. It's holding more than 1 is exhausting and 2 is fun, so it's a lot. But the one that I held today was not one that I'd planned on holding, but because of conversations yesterday, it kind of motivated that conversation today. So the session that I held was about augmenting the OpenID for VC protocols with DIDCOM in order to solve some of the scope and requirements mismatch between what people want to do with the OpenID for VCI protocols and what's within scope for those protocols. For example, the interaction model of OpenID for VC involves the user responding to some sort of an offer or invitation to like receive a credential, for example, and there's not a defined way to get that message to the user with the OpenID for VC spec and is out of scope for that. So there's an opportunity to bootstrap the OpenID for VCI effort into an exchange of DIDs, which can lead to a DIDCOM session, and then we need to generate a purpose-built protocol to solve that problem, and I think that will be very useful for that community. So I held a session on what problems exist and what can we do there. There was lots of opportunity that we talked about, but the really low-hanging fruit was this thing of solving the inability to push that data to something else, and so to a remote device, rather than have someone scan something off of a screen or the typical interaction pattern with the OpenID protocols. So that session was very good, including Torsten Lautersat, who's heavily involved in the OpenID for VCI work, came and spoke briefly about how that works and what the opportunities are. Right now, if there's any exchange, there's already an exchange of a holder DID if a credential is being issued, but there's an opportunity to extend their protocol to allow the proof of an additional DID that might be used if you want to communicate using a different DID than you use as the subject of a credential that you're issued, which is sometimes a case that happens. So that was a very effective session and very encouraging. The other session that I held today was work that started a year ago here at IIW called Universal Wallet Backup Containers. And this is an effort to try and standardize the method of backing. There's singing in the background. Can you hear that, Tim?
No, I can't.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so so the second session that I held today was Universal Wallet Backup Containers, and that is work that started a year ago at IIW and continuing to expand it. That's a standard way of backing up application like wallet data to allow an easier backup and restore experience for users. The benefit there is that we can solve the problems of key recovery and what users need to know to interact with a backup and how to do it in a secure way. We talked about the complexities of backing up, and in some cases there's things that you don't want to back up and require to be reissued, but that you may want to include shadow information that allows the users or helps them recollect or rehab issued what they had before if they're like restoring something onto a new device. So there's a bunch of complexities to that conversation, but it's a very good one, and I hope to keep the work and get a little bit more active during this next phase of time so that we can make some progress on that. We're not yet to the point where the community is aching for this, but everyone recognizes that it's coming, and we need to kind of have our answer ready to go so that we have a good way of doing this. So that was a great session as well. That was right before that was the last session today. So right before we had sort of the closing circle for the conference day.
Nice. So Right. Obviously, that was a lot of information there. I have a quick
So
follow
much. Yeah, go
up.
ahead.
For your second session, which is about recovering credentials, it sounds like, was there kind of a solution offered? Is there a general train of thought that people are moving towards in terms of how to solve that problem? What is the next step?
So there's a beginning step or spec that we have at the diff. There's three areas of work within that spec that we need to do. One is defining the data format for what goes, or the sort of the format for the manifest file that collects all of that type of data together. And then another area of work is to experiment with the compression and encryption the compression of that and how to sort of work with the compressed format, mostly to make sure that it's a developer friendly experience. The third area of work is on the encryption and the decryption, including key recovery aspects that will be involved. The backup is encrypted, which then means that you have to have a decryption key present in order to actually use the data, and that's necessary for a lot of security reasons. If you export an unsecured backup, then all of your information is unsecured, and that's a bad thing. So, but you also need normal people, as we say in Indicio, you need grandma in a spacesuit, capable of understanding how to provide that recovery key when she is in fact restored from something. So we talked about different things. One of the interesting story that I told there was that there's a Canadian clothing company called Tilly Endurables, and they make a hat that I really enjoy, and it's guaranteed for life, and it's the hat's life, not yours. So you can put it in your will, and someone else can have this, and if it ever wears out, they'll replace it for free. And there's a warranty card that comes as the proof of purchase of your Tilly hat. And on the card, it says to put the warrant or to put the warranty card in the left side of the top drawer of your dresser. And it says if you put it there, then when you call us and we tell you that you need to find the card, we're going to tell you to look in the left side of the top drawer of your dresser to find it. And we talked about how great that was from a user experience perspective, because it was something that normal people can do. It's a thing that works, and then they can make it through kind of an annoying problem, and if they don't have a universal way to do it. And so we're not necessarily recommending that your backup be put in the top left hand side of the top drawer of your dresser, but that kind of instruction is what we need to provide users in order to simplify a backup experience, so that they can follow good practices, but they also don't need to know too many technical details about how the system is actually working on their behalf.
All right, makes sense. And also, wow, what a guarantee with the hat. That is incredible.
Yeah, great hats. Not sponsored by Tilly or anything, but I've owned several in my life as my head grew and I had to buy a newer one, and I love them. So, but I love their process, and I think it's really it's a good illustration of how to help people solve a technical problem. In this case, preserving a document or information that's needed in the future with good and clear instructions.
Absolutely simple and effective. So so I know, right, you mentioned that IIWs the following days after the first are typically spawned off of like follow-up conversations and things like that. I'm wondering if you either attended any follow-up sessions or if there are any other takeaways from like some of the big things at IIW after day two.
There was a lot of authorization conversations, and authorization is an aspect of identity that's important, but it's kind of under exciting. And there seemed to be a lot of conversations today that were born out of that. I didn't end up making it to any because I had other sessions going on, but that was a common topic here at IIW. And then a bunch of side conversations. I always delight. I'm a big fan of DIDCOM, obviously, and so there were several of the demos that had really cool DIDCOM demonstrations, including cross app compatibility and interoperability for messaging and other interactions using DIDCOM, and I was pretty excited about that. I love seeing DIDCOM being used in the wild, particularly when I'm unaware of the demo. That's always a delight for me, and I love it when that happens. And so there were several of those, and really good conversation with folks as we discussed, the sort of the developing technologies that happen here at IIW.
All right, very cool. Well, I know we don't want to keep you too long, so I appreciate you joining us. We'll kind of wrap it up here. Thanks for joining us, Sam. If you at home are interested in learning a bit more about verifiable credential technology, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to bring you some more educational content or just some updates from the space. Sam, if you were to leave us wanting just a little bit more, what do you think will IIW Day 3 look like? Are there any more conversations you're looking forward to that have been hinted at a little bit?
There are. I'm spending some of my sessions here on technical things that need to sort of move forward in the community. And so I have a session scheduled for tomorrow. The other thing I enjoy about day three is that often a lot of the main topics have been sufficiently covered. Not always, but often. And so some of the topics on day three tend to get a little bit more of a relaxed discussion where people kind of sit back in their chairs and kind of think creatively about problems in a way that is really valuable. And so I really enjoy day three sessions. And so I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a great time, and I'm and it's a great event. By the time you get to the end of day three, you're fairly exhausted, and so it's sort of bittersweet to get to the end of the conference and think about all the conversations and the ideas and the things that have been swirling around as we all head home to keep working on it.